Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
Well, hi, everybody. This is Porky Pig. This is Nerd On, folks.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome. We have a very special episode today, but first, we are going to introduce the host. I am Josh.
I am Tom.
I'm Ali.
I'm Caitlin.
And I am Corey.
And this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon.
Patreon.
As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears, multiple of them, actually. You get discounts on merch, you get early access to merch, and you get access to secret channels on our Discord server. It's an amazing community to join, and it's always growing, and it's gotten to the point where it's hard to keep up with all the conversations because there's so many going on at the same time. It's pretty fun.
But I dare you to.
Double dog.
Yeah, check that out. The link to join the Nerd On Nation is nerdon.tv/Patreon. And the link to the Discord is nerdon.tv/Discord. And a huge shout out.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. A big shout out to our partners in crime, Apogee. These microphones, the Hype mic, it's a wonderful microphone. I really can't speak more about it. It's I like it. I'm just going to say it that way. I really like it.
I'm going to do one better. I love it.
I want some more of it.
It's the reason we've gotten to keep recording through all of this madness. Super shout out to Apogee for keeping this podcast rolling, because it probably might not have happened without you guys. So thank you.
Exactly.
Using cans and string.
Yes. And a big shout out to Odyssey Headphones, who have officially recognized our statement that if your ears were mouths, they taste like butter. They're that good.
So true.
I don't apologize for coming up for that.
But I do. I apologize for Corey.
Nor do I regret it then. In that case.
That's more
it
like
offended Tom, so I like it.
I apologize for everybody, but then they don't have to regret it.
So, like I said, a very important show today. Our show is primarily 5 people, and we gather around to talk about the things that bring us together. And today is a very special day because we grace our feed with another legend. And you know him for voicing Luke Skywalker, Bucky the Squirrel, and Emmy nominated multiple times for Porky the Pig.
Woo.
The one and only Bob Bergen is with us today, and we later get to pick his brain and get his nerd on about Mrs. Doubtfire.
It's so good.
It's going to be fun.
On with it. Well, Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
I have to say, this is an honor for me. And I know we've all talked kind of in our what we call our digital green screen of how much the Looney Tunes have meant to us in our fandom, in our nerddom. And this is a complete honor to have you on the show.
I think you're easily pleased, but thank you.
How has this quarantine and everything been for you? How is life in 2020 for Bob Bergen?
Yeah. Well, that's a multifaceted question.
Good.
I was on the phone just before this with a buddy of mine who works on a soap opera, and he said, I miss a handshake. I miss hugging people. I went to the bank the other day to make a deposit because I still do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And I have a mask on, and I'm saying to the teller, I swear to God, I'm smiling.
Like you can't tell, but I promise.
Right, and I'm not going to rob you just because I'm wearing a mask. But it feels awkward.
Yeah.
So look. Everybody's had to adapt. I can tell you professionally how I've had to adapt. I've had to, and I did this within 10 days of the quarantine. I had to completely upgrade my home studio.
Whoa.
Which meant, I've always had a home studio for auditions, but I've never worked from home. So within 10 days, I spent a couple grand and I upgraded my home studio. I've always had a broadcast quality booth, but I did not have broadcast quality hardware or software. And I now do. And voice actors are extremely fortunate because we're the only genre of acting that we're able to continue making a living at this. I got friends in New York on Broadway, and they can't even wait tables. So, I don't take it for granted. And it was one of those things where it was this major disruption, but if you just kind of go with the flow, we're able to keep working. So I consider myself fortunate.
Yeah, very fortunate.
Super kudos to you for having the wherewithal to make that pivot within the first 10 days of everything happening. Because I'm also a voice actor, and you see within the community of the industry that you're in, everyone was trying to figure out, like scrambling to figure out how to make it work. So the fact that you did it in 10 days is kind of like, oh, okay, nice.
Well,
that's amazing.
It was kind of like, do or die. I'm on a handful of series right now. I'm working on an animated feature right now, a whole bunch of games right now. And if I didn't want to be replaced or disrupt production, I had to go with the flow. And, to me, it wasn't, I didn't even have to think twice. I just did it. What I had to think twice about was, how do I do it? Because when it comes to technology, the fact that we're talking right now on Zoom, I'm thrilled with myself. The fact that I was able to get the gallery view, I'm thrilled. I mean, I know technology. This is my knowledge of technology. The light switch, that's on, that's off, that's it. So the moral of the story is, gang, if I can do this, anybody can.
I mean,
very inspirational.
I wouldn't count yourself too short. Obviously we talked about how we like to do a little bit of homework when we have our guests on, and how you ended up getting Mel Blanc's number and calling him when you decided that you wanted to voice Porky Pig, and going through the phone books and stuff like that. That's some ingenuity, I feel like. And people ask me this all the time. How did you get the nerve to do that? I didn't think it was nerdy. I thought, look, if you want to be a doctor, call a doctor. Yeah. If you want to be an accountant, call an accountant. I wanted to be an animated pig, so I called the guy who was doing the animated pig. And I think sometimes, when you're young, you just don't think that this is something that is unusual. I think as we become adults, we put limitations on ourselves out of fear and not wanting to look stupid. My biggest fear was that I wasn't going to find his phone number, or he was going to hang up on me. But the worst case scenario is that if I get him, he'll hang up on me. At least I try.
Yeah.
We always say here at Nerd On, it's one of our kind of core philosophies is that you can't get a yes unless you ask. So it's like reaching out to somebody, reaching out to some of the guests that we've had. You can't
reaching out to you.
Yes. Yeah. Even though we kind of were like 2 degrees, 1 degree of separation, like reaching out to you, it's like, well, you can't get a yes unless I ask him.
Yeah, it is very much so kind of rewiring yourself to make sure you have you're in touch with that part of yourself as a kid who really doesn't care about what people think and just kind of wants what they want and isn't afraid to go get it. And it's definitely, pays off tenfold if you can find a way to hang on to it.
And it's really cool to see that, like, that kind of founding principle for you when you were 14, calling and the phone books and sending letters and asking all the kind of right questions has followed you up to now, where you don't mind like doing whatever you think might be the necessary thing and finding solutions for whatever problem. That's what led you to, in 10 days I had solutions for things, because I wasn't like questioning what the right thing to do was. I was just like looking for the answers, and I found them.
Well, there's no possibility of success without risking failure. And, I always tell my students that someday you're going to be on your deathbed. And failure is a lot easier to accept at that point than, I don't know, regret.
Mm-hmm.
God, I would rather say I tried and failed than regret even trying.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's really sick, actually, that people, as you continue getting older, a lot of people start looking at more of the reasons why or how many times they're going to fail instead of being
open and positive and seeing the opportunities. I think it's really weird that like people fear failure so much that where it's like if you're going to try everything and try as many options as you can, you open yourself up to so much more failure, which is just part of the process because you can't get better unless you fail because you learn so much more from that. I mean, but
it's life. It's not acting or voiceover. It's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everything translates too. Because like, I'm sure the first time you were like, I want to do the Porky Pig voice, like how long did it take you to figure out that pattern of stutter? How long did it take you to figure out like putting in that ad lib line at the end?
I figured that out before I was able to really do the voice because I was working on that when I was a kid before my voice changed. And in your head, you think you sound great.
Yeah. Right, of course. Of course. You're like, oh, this sounds perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I just came across every cassette from every voiceover class I ever took from my first one when I was 14.
Wow.
That I'm gonna be digitizing, and because cassettes, they're magnetic, they die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm listening to myself, I'm going, well, I sucked. I was terrible. I couldn't act. My voice hadn't changed. So, I had a lot of luck during this entire journey. First of all, I made it to LA. Second of all, I had the ability to do this stutter thing, but then I was also really well trained in acting and improv and voiceover. And then the timing was great. I happened to be a working actor at the time that Mel Blanc passed away, and they were holding auditions. So, I don't take that for granted either. Timing and luck is a definite part of it. But the obsession of wanting to do this, I think everybody who's really successful in life, first of all, do what you love. Don't do what you love for a dime, but do what you love. If you do what you love, you'll be willing to do it for free. When you get paid for it, it's icing on the cake. But everybody doing what they love doesn't feel like work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's again, like Tom said, kudos to you because, opportunity and luck don't mean anything if you're not willing to act on it. So that's the secret recipe there.
In a way, you kind of create your own luck because I think I remember in an interview you said like, the industry isn't ready for me and I'm not ready for the industry yet. And so like you have to just work really hard. And, the moment that, I don't want to say when opportunity arose, but like, when you got the audition for Looney Tunes, it was more like, I've been working, I didn't just sit waiting for the opportunity.
Correct. And when I called and met Mel Blanc, I was 14, I was in junior high,
Yeah.
So I remember my mom was very patient. We're driving. I crashed a recording session to watch Mel Blanc work after I talked to him, and we're driving away. And I said to my mom very innocently, I don't think that now is my time to pursue this. And my mom's like, I think you're right.
Wow.
Very, very sweet about it. But I'll tell you guys, I've been doing Porky for over 30 years now. I've had to re-audition 8 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't. This character, I don't know anything. My name is not Warner, or am I their brother? So, I mean, anytime there's a big project, I have to audition.
And just for a dose of reality, just as a person who is like working through kind of finding myself and my voice and where I exist in a vocal sense and all of that, for other people who are looking to get into voiceover, looking to be these characters, that kind of thing. How much time from that crashing a recording session, finding Mel Blanc's number, did you spend on becoming an actor and figuring out what your instrument was? How long did it take you before you were like, okay, I know what I am now?
Well, I always knew what I was. I just didn't know how to get there.
Right.
So,
or rather how long it took to get there, kind of.
Okay. So I left that Mel Blanc recording session, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because you don't know who's seen what. But when I called Mel Blanc, during the course of the conversation, he mentioned the name of the studio he was working at that week. He didn't say the day or the time. He just said the name. Yeah. So when I finished with him, I called the studio pretending to be his assistant. And I said, hi, I'm calling to confirm Mr. Blanc's appointment. And I just pulled this out of my ass. Thursday at 9. And they said, well, we've got him on the calendar for Wednesday at 11. I went, you're right. It's Wednesday, 11. I'm looking at the wrong day. I'm so sorry. So I said to my mom, I'm skipping school on Wednesday. And you're going to take me to watch Mel Blanc work. And she said, cool. So when we got to the studio, I told the receptionist, hi, we're guests of Mel Blanc. And he told us we could watch. And she said, oh, he's in that booth over there. And we went to that booth over there. And I said to his producer, hi, we're good friends of the receptionist. And she said we could watch. And the producer said, sure, have a seat. So I watched the guy work, which was, I could have died happy that day because I'm watching Mel Blanc do Porky Pig and Bugs Bunny. So then when I realized, my voice hadn't changed and I'm 14 and I can't do this right now, I came home from that recording session and I called Hanna-Barbera and they referred me to a guy named Dawes Butler. So I started studying voiceover. From age 14 to 18, I studied voiceover with every teacher that Los Angeles had to offer. I spent 2 years at an acting conservatory and 3 years in improv. Wow. I got my first agent a week out of high school when I was 18.
Wow.
And for the next 5 years, I had survival jobs, 5 days a week, 7 nights a week to pay the bills while I was trying to pursue voiceover with hit or miss auditioning. And so from first class to working actor was 9 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And then Mel Blanc, that was 87 when I quit the last day job. Mel Blanc passed away in 89.
Wow.
And I got my first Looney Tunes job in 1990. But I will tell you guys that after about a dozen callbacks and no decision was made, I said to my agent at the time, if I don't book this, I might think about quitting voiceover. Why? And I said, because this is all I ever wanted to do. This is why I got into it. And my agent at the time was a little nervous about that because I was on a handful of shows and she wanted a commission. So
right, of course. But your job is her job.
It was. I got lucky. And by the way, nobody to this day from Warner Brothers has ever said you're the voice of. I never call myself the voice of.
Right.
You guys do, but which is great. But no, I'm just one of the guys who has shared these characters, and I think they've hired me more than anybody. But other people have done the character.
Right.
No, I really like that story just because it is a testament of what I think you call people who find a talent and that's something that they really like. They just have that laser focus, and it's like that is kind of like the X factor of finding success between doing what you want to do and then finding being able to live off of it, which is crazy because it's I don't how do you at a young age know I want to do Porky Pig versus Bugs Bunny or Daffy or Taz or what made you want to go for Porky?
Or just why didn't I just say I wanted to be an actor or I wanted to do voices for cartoons?
Yeah.
I think I started out as a fan of the character, and I found the comedy endearing. I did like you said, I broke down the stutter, but I've got friends who are stand-up comics or who are sitcom actors or dramatic actors or Broadway musical theater people. And most didn't say, I'm dying to do West Side Story, or I want to be on Saturday Night Live. Sometimes they do, but I've had really, really good friends who just had this need to perform.
Sure.
And
compels.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't know there was a business called voiceover, let alone a way to become a character. And by the way, people assume that Looney Tunes is my life, and it's not. I use it to promote my career, but this week I had 4 sessions and only one was Looney Tunes. So, I think people do need to be focused, extremely driven and focused with what they want. And even if what your goal is to be in the voiceover industry, what does that mean to you commercially? What does that mean to you from the world of animation and games? What does that mean? Where do you fit in? Because it's not about being able to do a bunch of different voices. It's about creating original characters. And just like a commercial demo has to reflect today's commercial landscape, an animation demo has to reflect today's animation landscape. So how do you fit in to the noon to 3 p.m. time block on Cartoon Network versus Nickelodeon? How are you PBS Kids versus Sprout? How are your more adult contemporary character choices for a show like Archer on FX different from Bob's Burgers on Fox?
Yeah, you got to know the market.
Well, most people don't think about this stuff.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yeah. I would like to, you brought up different aspects of your career, and I'd like to branch off here and speak about one of my personal favorites, favorite character of mine. You were No Face in the
Oh yeah, he's right there.
Spirited Away.
Oh
Yep,
my gosh.
it's a very unique character, and I'm assuming a very unique character to play because you're just kind of portraying emotion through not much more than a few grunts here and there.
Not much. Well, he didn't really start talking until he ate a frog and started vomiting the world. So
Yeah.
that's when he got more dialogue.
As you
But for
do.
the most part, he just kind of wandered around going,
Yeah.
but he still had to have emotion.
Could you speak about what it was like working on that film or any sort of any
Inside
highlights
baseball?
for you for playing that character?
Sure. First of all, the voice dubbing was done by the good folks at Pixar.
Mhm.
And because I had done a lot of work for Pixar, they just called, Nikki McGowan was the casting director, and she just called me into work. And a casting director will basically look at the project and look at the cast that they're bringing in and say, I think you'd be right for this. I think you'd be right for that. So Nikki thought that I would be right for this little frog that pops up at the beginning of the film. And throughout the course of the day, they realized, well, this ghostly character, No Face, eats the frog and takes on a whole different weird personality. So that's when they said, why don't you come up and try some things for No Face? So that's how that whole thing came together.
Wow.
It was literally a day in my life. When you work on a film, if it's dubbed, you only get to work on or see the parts of the film that you're in. So I mean, they kind of explained that a little girl and her parents get stranded. They turn into pigs, and she goes to work at a bathhouse for spirits. And I was like, okay. And so I only got to actually see, when I was working on it, those parts that I was in.
Sure.
I will tell you that one of my all-time favorite moments as an actor was the scene where No Face had eaten a ton of crap and got huge, and he got frog-like arms, and then he vomited everything. And so I don't know if you guys have ever done anime, but
I watch a lot.
Okay, well, to do anime well as an actor, you've got to be this much psychic, because there's going to be an extra mouth flap that they didn't
every time
anticipate. Exactly, right?
Yep.
So if you're this much psychic, you're going, and this is where improv skills come in handy. There was this moment of quiet after No Face vomited. So I just ad-libbed, excuse me.
Wow.
And I didn't know if they were going to keep it in the film, but they ended up keeping it in the film.
I was like, that's one of my favorite parts. I didn't know that was something you came up with. That's fantastic.
So you're very good at because also the squirrel in Emperor's New Groove, you played that as well.
Bucky.
And you did a very good job of, I remember hearing in an interview, you're like, I'm going to go outside and think about this for a second. And then you met a squirrel that gave you the inspiration. So what for you has been the most like light bulb moment character that, is it No Face? Is it Bucky? Like, or do you have another character that you're like really excited about what you came up with for creating that character?
Oh man, that's a great question. Wow, every character is exciting when you're doing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, those were jobs from years ago. So, and I'm doing stuff right now that unfortunately are under NDAs, and I can't talk about them.
I know.
Next time.
Next comeback.
I know, right? But I'm doing one right now that is a character I have played in the past that they've brought back. And they're telling stories that have never been told before. So that is exciting as an actor, because I have to create intent and relationships that are new to this character. I'm doing another show that's original and brand new. And, when you do a character, if you're a series regular, episode 10 is different from episode 1. Because you're feeding the writers and the writers are feeding you. Sometimes they'll shift gears in the story because you'll give a delivery of a line with a character where they're like, well, that's a layer of their relationship we never thought of.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
An actor's job is to interpret the script, and a good writer hires an actor who takes those words and takes them in a way that the writer didn't even know they could go. And then all of a sudden you're on season 5, and it's a whole different ball game because of this collaborative thing called production.
Yeah.
So long-winded answer to your question, I do it every time I work or even audition. I've got those creative aha moments. In fact, when I get a job, I got to go back into my files because once I've auditioned, I let it go.
Yep, it's gone.
Yeah. Otherwise,
You have to.
Yeah, you'll go nuts if you think about all the auditions you've done in the past.
They all start merging.
I was going to mention you. Speaking of lots of auditions, some of your video game work. You've been Luke Skywalker more times than I thought could be possible. That I remembered being Star Wars video games. I'll put it that way. What's that like? I'm assuming you're going to have to audition every time you go in. It's probably different crew working on each title. What's that like?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think I've had to re-audition for Luke a couple of times, but for the most part, if they want, like I just did Robot Chicken again, and they just call me.
So they know
for that one, I got to do most recent Luke, which is older Luke.
Oh.
Which I never done before.
Gray angry Luke.
Well, gray angry Luke. Luke, yeah. So when I think it was over 20 years ago, the first audition for, it was at the time LucasArts, and I turned it down because I told my agent I can't do Mark Hamill. I can't even come close to Mark Hamill. And my agent said, "You want me to just turn it down for you?" I said, "Yeah, I don't want to audition for this." And the producers called her back and said that they really want to see me, and I said, "Okay, but I don't do Mark Hamill." So I walked into the audition and I said, "I don't do Mark Hamill." And Dara O'Farrell was the producer.
Shout out.
And voice director. And he said, "Don't do Mark Hamill, do Luke Skywalker."
Oh.
And I was like, oh. Okay. Now, I was, of course, I had seen at that time all the Star Wars films, but I wasn't a student of the franchise. So I could not pull that character out of my ass. So he had to give me a little education and play me some clips and say, this is pre-Jedi, this is post-Jedi Luke, they're a little bit different. And this one's kind of a whiny little teenager, of course.
Yeah.
So, but I will tell you guys, and I've told this story too, because I think it's a lesson for everybody who wants to get into this business. Before I took the first game, I made sure that my agent called Mark's agent to make sure that he didn't want the job, because I would not. I don't take a job from somebody else. I didn't know if he was in a contract negotiation and asked for more money. For Christ's sake, he's with Skywalker. He should.
I was going to say he does video game voice acting. Usually the Joker.
This was a while ago, and this is before he got back or re-involved with the franchise.
Right.
But no, my agent found out that he actually was I believe pursued for this, but didn't want to do it.
Oh,
that's
classy.
Why I did it. Very classy.
That's very Weird Al of you to do.
Yeah. But no, it's funny when you say that, when you just said like different types of Luke Skywalker, and the only one that sticks in my mind so much in Robot Chicken is just like, it's the whiny Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
that's like, the one they've done the most often, and I give Seth Green a lot of credit. He's a wonderful director, and he is such a Star Wars nerd. So any question I had on how to pronounce this planet or what's going on here, he had it all down.
That's awesome. You've said in interviews that you would love to have, because you've played so many different characters, but you've said that you want your own thing, like it's almost like your SpongeBob. And you've also said that you audition for those all the time. If you could write that character, if you could create that character that was yours, it was like, this is Bob Bergen plays this. Like, what would it be?
Not a clue.
Not a clue?
I knew that was going to be your answer.
Because I'm not a writer. I'm not a producer. I'm not a creator. My job is to take their work and make it mine. So, yeah, I'm on a handful of shows right now that are in season 1 or 2 or possibly even 3. Who knows where they're going to go? But I have never had a Homer Simpson or a SpongeBob that has lasted, that was original to me for 20, 30 years. And I don't count Porky Pig as that because I didn't create the character, nor do I come close to the dude that did. You know, I'm just basically trying my best to keep the integrity of the character. So yeah, it would be really, really cool to, I'll be 70 or 80 years old, more like 80 and 90. But but I'm fortunate. I work every day. I audition every day. I can't complain. You know, I don't have any regrets because that hasn't happened. I'm working on a variety of things, but I just have never had that one franchise that has gone on forever.
That's so cool.
I have a little inside story only because we talked about Bill Holmes before we started recording. And in interview, it was the question was asked of what was the most like inappropriate time of you using the Porky Pig voice, and you mentioned how Bill Holmes called you. I think it was at a funeral. At a funeral.
Yeah.
Has there been a moment that has topped that since then?
Not as far as inappropriate. But I mean, I don't blame Billy for this because, he'll be with buddies from Chicago or buddies from college, and my phone will ring. Hey, buddy, is the pig there? And I'm like, it's my fault. I didn't turn my phone off at my cousin Gene's funeral.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know. And my phone rings, and my mom is doing this to me, and I'm an actor. I'm a whore. It could have been an audition. I'm not going to ignore it. Okay.
Yeah.
Gene would have understood. Okay.
Or liked it.
So I looked, and it was Bill Holmes, and then I was like, well, shit. I wasn't thinking Porky Pig. I was thinking is something wrong. So I was like, oh. Hey, buddy, is the pig there? And I'm like, dude, I'm at a funeral right now. Buddy, I got my friends. They're leaving town. I just really quick. Yeah, this is Porky. The rabbi's looking at me, and I'm like, it's what we do. You know?
I can't stop. I would if I could, but
And now you have that story.
I do. And the other one, which wasn't inappropriate, but if you guys heard the 9/11 story,
No, please.
no.
so it was about maybe a week or so after 9/11.
Oh no.
And I'm out late at night with some friends, and we decide to go to Krispy Kreme. It's
Uh-huh.
11:30 at night.
Yeah.
And I'm at the drive-through,
As you
and
do.
this lady says, "Can I take your order?" And I said, "Ooh, give us a minute. We haven't figured it out yet." And this male voice comes on and says, "Let me know when you're ready." And I said, "Ooh, you changed your voice." And then she came back and she said, "Yes, I did. Now you change yours." And I looked at my friends and I ordered a dozen glazed donuts like Porky Pig.
Whoa.
And there's a long pause, and she says, "Please pull up to the second window." And I pull up to the second window, and she hands me 3 dozen donuts. And I said, "I think you misunderstood me." And she said, "Heard every word you said. It is our first laugh since 9/11. Take these, they're on the house."
That's amazing.
So I turned to my friends and I said, "Let's go to a Porsche dealer next."
It's a voice battle turned into like a
Wow.
heartwarming story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Voice
You can use
is
it for good or evil.
And by the way, I dropped the box off at my parents' house, and I kept the box,
Yep.
and it was calories well eaten.
Oh yeah. That no
Well
regrets though.
Of
No
course.
regrets.
Right?
Pro tip.
So you're
Wow.
I'm always curious about this because like I grew up on Looney Tunes, and Mel Blanc is a legend to me. And you also have Casey Kasem in your career, and you have a lot of iconic characters that you have played. Do you have a favorite, like the absolute favorite moment of your career
Thus far.
thus far?
This might be it. We might be the best moment.
I do, but it's unrelated to anything you just said.
Oh.
That's fine.
That's fine.
and
Those are
nothing
more like
better.
reference points.
And nothing came from it. So I was at the Annie Awards several years ago, and I was presenting. Patrick Warburton was hosting,
Nice.
and we did a bit where I came out and he did Kronk and I did Bucky. Now, sidebar, we're backstage. I'm introducing myself to him. We did a feature, a straight-to-video sequel, and 3 years in a series, and had never met because I did all my stuff. I did all my stuff separately. Hang on one second, guys. I had to tell Alexa something. It was very important.
Oh,
for
okay.
sure.
Oh.
That happens all the time.
Yep.
Talking to you. Okay. So he says to me, I thought Bucky was a sound effect. I said, dude, first of all, sound effects can't act. Okay. That's number one.
Facts. Facts.
Excuse
I'm
me.
in the, right? And I'm in the Fakata credits. Don't read. It's alphabetical. It's Bergen. All right. So we're on stage with Tony Bancroft, who animated Bucky in the Emperor's New Groove. And I brought my agent to the ceremony, and Tony is talking to my agent afterwards, and he's doing a project with Paul McCartney. And there's a character kind of like Bucky, and he wants to know if I'd be interested in doing it.
Wow.
And my agents asked me, I said, sure, happy to do it. And so when she booked me, she said, now, McCartney's going to be there. I said, no way. McCartney's going to be there. And I never get nervous. And I'm driving there. And it was not too far from my house. And I'm like, be cool. It's going to be Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney. And I went to meet him, and he was just lovely. And he was just charming. And I don't know if the film ever came out, and I never did anything else. It was just a sizzle reel that they were putting together to try to pitch it and sell it. But that was probably one of the coolest. That and teaching the audience at the Hollywood Bowl over 2 nights how to do Porky Pig. That's
That's cool.
That was really cool.
What's
That's
funny
pretty
is
cool.
with the Annie Awards, my neighbor, he runs the Annie Awards. I found out recently, like he is the executive director of the Annie Awards. I'm like,
Okay.
I didn't even know they existed until he told me.
They're pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, they started out, I think they were June Foray's brainchild. They started out because there were no Oscars or Emmys for voice actors and for animation.
Wow.
And the art. So she started it herself, and it's become, as prestigious. It is to animation what an Oscar is to film.
Oh yeah, and how Josh was saying how he grew up on Looney Tunes. I'm a little bit younger, but watching Duck Dodgers, and then you being the young eager cadet, I was like,
yeah,
like it's interesting to think like how much Looney Tunes and by the time you were working on Porky Pig, like I had been born. So you are the only Porky Pig in my
I'm
life.
old. Is what you're trying to say.
No, I'm just saying.
Wow. He's saying you're a seasoned professional.
Well,
which he
I'm
admires.
only conditioned to hear yours, and so it's interesting because I've read, I've watched a lot of interviews and how you break down the stutter and how you break down the voice. And I remember as a kid having that same thing. I was like, why does he talk this way? And then I was like, why does he try to say something and then ends up saying something else? And then how you just said like in, like industry terms, like, oh, it's an ad lib. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like now as an adult, I'm like,
You're just like, oh.
I was a dumb
Right.
kid and I didn't understand this.
Well, I'll tell you. Sometimes it's an ad lib. A lot of times it's a good writer.
Yeah.
Hey.
And
yes.
I will tell you guys that every time I work on a brand new project with a brand new producer or writer, they will type in my stutter.
Wow.
I was just about to ask. I was like, is it written in or is it just like stutter on this word?
The first job of every new project, they will type it in. And I will have to have a sit down, and I want to do it as respectfully as possible because they think they're helping me. And I'm like, guys, I can't find the actual lines if you type in every word, the stutters.
Right.
So Matt Craig, who was the writer, producer, director of New Looney Tunes, not to be confused with Looney Tunes cartoons or the Looney Tunes show.
Right.
It does get confusing.
It's
Very.
a lot.
He came up with a formula that I take with me to every job, where if there's a word and then there's a written joke or gag, he just types in ellipses. And that ellipses means Bob stutter at this point. So if the line is, has anybody seen my dog? It would say, has anybody seen my dog? ... And he either may write in the gag or just have it blank for me to fill in.
Oh wow.
So I would see that ellipses and I would say, has anybody seen my canine?
Yeah, exactly. I love those.
And I will stutter as long as it takes me to think of something funny to say. There is no formula or length to that.
Yeah.
But I've taken Matt Craig's ellipses idea with me.
That's
Brilliant.
awesome.
That's
Wow.
fantastic.
That's great.
That's just, it's one of those things that you just like, you sit there and you're like, that's really smart.
It's live and learn. You know what? It's live and learn, and you don't want to offend the creatives that you're working with
No.
by saying, "I can't read your script."
Right.
So I do it. I will finish the first episode if it's a series, and then I will gently say, "Hey, I have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it won't work for you, but perhaps
if it does,
will."
cool.
Helps me out.
Yeah.
One of our own, actually not one of our own, multiple of our own have taken acting classes and courses and performed on stage. Some recently have revealed that they do a Marvin the Martian voice as well.
Oh my god.
Everybody does the Martian voice.
Yeah.
But
It's the best
Josh here
Oh,
has
gosh.
been open and willing to go open for some critique if you're willing
All
to
right.
give some.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
game.
He's like,
Love
oh,
it.
spotlight. Ah.
Oh, I'm doing
Right.
it. Okay.
Yep.
You got this. Remember, don't be nervous. Just if you fail, you
Just
fail.
do it.
Yeah. Where's the kaboom? There's supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom. I don't know.
Okay, that was actually Josh. That was very good.
Tear 'em
Now here's the test. Ready? Behind you, are there any books?
Yes.
Grab one.
Oh dang. Oh dang. I saw this. I saw this on Vanity Fair, I think.
Sure.
Oh, I know what this
Any
is.
that book will do.
I love it.
Start to flip the book until I say stop.
Oh dang.
Yee.
Stop. Stop. Read the top page as Marvin.
Cutting it a little close, aren't we? Not really. I've been watching you for the last 10 minutes. What are you talking about? You just stood there while they beat me. Why?
Okay, good. Now, okay, I'm going to start with not bad, but I'm going to tell you that Josh started coming out because you're married to the catchphrase that you've memorized.
Yeah.
So when it comes to portraying a character that's already existed, everybody can do the catchphrases. It's the new dialogue that's a bitch.
Yup.
So I'll tell you guys, and I've told this story before, so by the way, my hair, I look like Cruella de Vil today.
I love your hair. I
swirl
actually
you have going
meant
on
to
in
say it
there.
earlier,
It's a
but I
COVID
love your
drip,
hair right now.
man.
I did not know that it was curly
I love
until
it.
we had a pandemic and I wasn't getting a haircut.
Oh,
And it's gotten very gray in our pandemic. So God,
I love the style.
When we auditioned for Space Jam, one of our last callbacks, they had us do Shakespeare
Mhm.
Oh.
because they figured if you can do
Beautiful.
Hamlet as a Looney Tune and stay in character but still portray Hamlet, you know that character. So I'm in the lobby of LA Studios, which is a studio in Los Angeles where they have a lot of auditions. And I'm seeing all the guys doing the callbacks, and they get this, and I could see the panic in their eyes,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Oh, I fucking have this. I got this one down."
That's awesome.
I mean, just
It's
imagine
true,
Porky
though, like,
Pig
you-
reading Hamlet is like killing me right now.
Pretty great. Yeah.
That's so accurate though for like doing a character. You can't just like be the front part of a character. You have to have all the depth and the layers as well of like the understanding of nuance.
It's
like
acting.
that's
It's
what
a living creature. It's a living person, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the characters today, even though Looney Tunes cartoons is the closest thing I've ever done with this franchise that feels like a classic Looney Tunes short, but Looney Tunes cartoons or new Looney Tunes, these characters are being put in situations that Mel Blanc never vocalized.
Mhm.
He never used a computer. He never used a cell phone. He was never an Uber driver. He never used the internet. So you still have to use these. You have to keep the integrity of the characters by keeping them or putting them in contemporary situations. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I guess that's
would
where the
imagine.
balance between like creating new characters or portraying ones that already exist, the challenges with each. And that one is just happening to be, let me expand this character beyond where it's ever been before, even though it's not, I didn't come up with the original piece of
And
it.
by the way, think about it. Mel Blanc did that with every short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get really deep if you're a fan of animation, but Daffy Duck had two different personalities.
Yeah.
He was zany woohoo Daffy and he was greedy Daffy.
yeah.
Mhm.
That
So how did that happen? Who made that decision and how did Mel Blanc deal with that?
Yeah, I recently started rewatching. So I watched the Looney Tunes cartoons, which is the one that's on HBO Max, and I love it. And I also
Which is the wacky zany Daffy.
yeah, and watching like I've also watched a bunch of Looney Tunes as well. And yeah, like characters have different motifs and like sometimes Bugs is like completely like the asshole. And then sometimes he is the one that's being like attacked, and so it, like you root for him. But sometimes he's the aggressor. Same thing with Daffy. It's like it's really really weird. That's like, like I don't know who I'm supposed to root for as an
Well, then
adult.
there's-
As a kid, you're like, oh, this is fun. But then as an adult, you're like, who's this
Exactly.
for?
There's also that classic story about him having to do Daffy doing Bugs and Bugs doing Daffy, and just like the
Mhm.
layers
Yeah,
that
yeah.
have to go into those kind of things.
Yeah, that's
Impressive
just
to me.
genius acting.
Yeah.
But,
Very, very
yeah.
much so.
So, I mean, before we move into the subject at hand, I
Yes.
have one last question.
Okay.
I watched a recent interview in which you spoke about the importance of gratitude. I'd love to know what you're grateful for these days.
First of all, I'm alive. So I'm healthy and I'm alive, and you can't beat that.
Pretty good one.
I'm able to keep working. I'm grateful for time. And that's going to sound weird because so many people right now are so angry and frustrated with the time they've got. But I have a luxury of time that I never have, because I would go from this audition to this job to this class, etc. And I'm on the freeway, and I don't have to drive between auditions and jobs. So, man, I'm grateful that this one day will end. And we have taken this disruption in the industry and we have turned it upside down to make it a positive, to where we can not only keep working, but the quality can be good. And perhaps it'll open the door to other people where they never saw the opportunity before. But, you know, if you complain, if you make your life nothing but a bitch fest, you know what? All you're going to do is complain. You're never going to be happy. Happiness is a choice. You choose to wake up every day and go, I'm fortunate that I have even this problem to deal with today, because some people have it a lot worse than I do.
Yeah, it's easy to lose perspective for sure.
Yeah, if you really want it, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't like excuses. I'm not a fan of victims. I'm sorry. Get over it.
They don't pay bills.
Well, it isn't even. They don't create happiness. You know, if you think you're owed something, no. You know what? Accountability and responsibility. You're responsible for your own happiness. If you're having a shitty day, put a fake smile on your face and don't let anybody know it. And eventually, sometime during that day, you're going to realize, oh my God, I didn't fake it for that split second. We can do that. Or we can just say, I'm a victim. I'm owed this. I'm owed that. And my life sucks. How would you like to live the rest of your life? Waking up every day saying, my life sucks.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Doesn't sound great.
And I think that does turn it into a little bit of the positive of, you know, our next topic at hand, which has like a little bit of that, like, how do you want to live your life? You know, moral at the end of the day. So we're talking, you know, Josh does all the heavy lifting and asking our guests what's their favorite thing they want to get their nerd on about. And you suggested Miss Doubtfire.
I did.
Christopher Columbus film starring Robin Williams.
Sally Fields, Pierce Brosnan.
Why did you pick this film, Bob?
Because I asked, give me an idea of what you want to talk about, and a favorite film came up, and I went, oh, it's Mrs. Doubtfire for me. There are certain movies that, you know, you're channel surfing, and no matter where you land, you'll finish it.
Yep.
Yeah. Any Mel Brooks movie, I'll do that with. If it's the holidays, It's a Wonderful Life, I'll do that with. If I see The Wizard of Oz on Turner Classics, I'll do that with. Mrs. Doubtfire, I'll do that with. First of all, I just think it's a charming movie. Let's start with that. I saw that film with a whole bunch of friends in the theater when it first came out.
Wow.
And it opens with Robin Williams as the voice of cartoons.
Yeah.
And during that opening scene, all my friends are looking at me like, is this how it's done?
That's you. You're in the movie.
Yeah.
Is you.
And I'm like, and he keeps doing it. Is this how it's done? And then he's fired from this one gig and he's 100% unemployed. And I said, so, and then when he was fired, he did a really bad Porky Pig. And I thought, yes, Williams, who is a genius at everything, does a lousy Porky Pig. So that I can live with. I'm going to angle up a little bit. There we go. Afterwards, I was talking to my friends and I said, okay, here are the differences. Number one, you don't make a career out of one job. Number two, you don't do it in one take. I mean, number three, you don't do it to picture unless you're doing some sweetening for ADR. Number four, it's not done in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but the film itself was just wonderful character work, wonderful ensemble character work, all of them, not just Robin Williams, but all of them. And I just found it charming. I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I collect life mechs.
I see.
Yeah, I see it.
I see some Nicholson. I think
Robin
I
Williams
saw
up there?
Hitchcock.
All right, so we got that's Anthony Hopkins.
Oh.
That's Hitchcock.
Nicholson.
That's Nicholson. That's Vincent Price.
Oh,
nice.
That's Bela Lugosi. But this one right there,
Williams.
that's Robin Williams.
Yeah, it's Williams. Yeah.
That was used in the movie Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, I was like, it looks like his face when he gets the prosthetic.
That's the plaster of Paris mask that they take off, and the guy Harvey Firestein plays his brother. Crafts the prosthetic makeup on that.
Harvey Firestein in that film.
Wait, so you're telling your friends the entire time how the industry isn't like that. So you're telling me on the record that you've never quit in a voice? You never quit in a voice that you made up?
Well, I've never quit in a voice. I have quit.
Yeah.
But I've never quit doing a voice. I actually was fired and walked off of a Looney Tunes project.
Oh wow.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and they'd hired a new producer director to take over the franchise and do a bunch of shorts, and he wanted me. So Mel Blanc's voices were sped up electronically, which a lot of people don't know.
I didn't know that.
Basically, Daffy and Sylvester are very close to the same voice, but Daffy's sped up.
Yeah.
So Mel Blanc's Porky was sped up. Mine is not. And this producer director got the idea of slowing down Mel Blanc's old recordings, having me mimic Mel Blanc in real time, and then speeding me up.
Oh.
Huh.
And I said to him, in theory, that sounds great, but in reality, Mel Blanc's natural voice was much deeper than mine. He smoked. They used RCA ribbon microphones, and they were recorded in actual sound stages. So you heard room noise in performance. And when you speed me up, I'm going to sound like Alvin the Chipmunk with a stutter. And when they sped me up, I sounded like Alvin the Chipmunk with a stutter.
Yep.
And I'm not one who argues with a director. If they want me to do it in a way that I think is bad, I am their actor for hire. I'm happy to do it. But I kind of felt a little bit of a responsibility towards the quality of this one character. I also was not pleased with the scripts. They were just a little bit too, I have no problem with edgy humor, but these were too edgy for what I thought the Looney Tunes should be. And for about a month in recording sessions, I found myself arguing with this guy.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because Looney Tunes, like, at least for me, when I think back, like, they're before my time, right? So like they definitely started before me, but then like they've done what I think like other companies in terms of animation don't do, with like, you know, they'll have like someone's in a shower, they'll have the like someone's naked, and I think you're talking about in Space Jam was like Porky wets himself, or you know, and it's that kind of stuff where it's like, you know, you don't hear that kind of humor, and it's a little bit of the crassier humor, but like,
well, you know, the Looney Tunes, first of all, Looney Tunes were never made for kids. They were made for adults, and they were put in front of adult films. Not adult films.
No, but
that's an idea. That's at least $100 idea.
That were made for the adult audience.
Yes, there we go.
And I mean, I can remember one where Elmer Fudd had a dog, and the dog had fleas. And the flea bites him, and the dog is running around just like rubbing his butt on the carpet. And then he stops and looks at the camera, and he goes, "Boy, I better stop this. I may get to like that." Well, it's kind of obvious what he was joking at. Back then, nobody thought these are going to be on a medium called TV, because TV didn't exist. Nobody thought they would be on a DVD, because DVDs didn't exist. And they're like, this will go over what he say, and they'll never see it again.
Yep.
Right.
And then the internet came around.
So back to this one cartoon. I went to my agent after just a very frustrating session, and I said to my agent, you know, I was told that this guy was going to be the torchbearer of this franchise, and he was going to be taking these characters in this direction. And I said, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Is there any way I can get out of my contract? And he said, well, that's impossible. I said, really? He goes, yeah, they just fired you.
Wow.
So now I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Because if I wanted to quit, it was my idea.
Yeah.
And I was told I will never do these characters again.
Wow.
Cut to, these shorts were never released. They let this guy go. And the next thing I knew, a few months later, I get a call from my agent, Spike Brandt and Tony Cervoni, are doing a show called Duck Dodgers, and they'd like me to play Eager Young Space Cadet. And I went, bitchin'. And that washed that bad taste out of my mouth fast, because Duck Dodgers was just written show.
I want more of those kind of shows. I think more like the creative what you do with these characters and putting them in other places is phenomenal.
But that show had nudity. I have this on my demo where Porky or Cadet is bare chested, and he says to Cadet to Dodgers, "Can I put my clothes back on? My nipples are getting cold." And I begged them to give him like 30 nipples just because, and they said,
Just like a close-up.
No, he's a boy. Do they have 30 pigs? I said, I don't know, but it would be funny.
It'd be great.
Funny if it was there.
So back to Doubtfire, Ms. Doubtfire. So you watched it in theaters, and so it's charming. Like it's interesting. Have you watched it recently?
Oh yeah, within the last week. I
Wow.
just happened to be surfing and landed on it. Sure.
And we customarily go around the screen. So what was everyone else's thoughts about it? We could share in the group of our first times in recent history.
I'll go.
I mean, go ahead, Josh.
I mean, it was such a joy to be like, there are movies in life that you just like them, you love them, and what sucks is you kind of almost forget about them in the purview of all the entertainment that we have. And when you said Mrs. Doubtfire, I was like, I get to watch Mrs. Doubtfire again. And I watched it a couple of times, and I was like, this movie is just so wonderful from back to front. Like, it introduced the world to Mara Wilson, who became a childhood treasure, Matilda and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And she's a fascinating person just in real life. But watching this, I was just like, it's such a wonderful message throughout the film as a child of divorce as well, of like kind of the final message of how family is. And it's such a joy of a movie. And it's like,
I think also a lesson to divorced parents on how not to treat each other in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, if you look at that movie is a bundle of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't fight in front of your kids. Don't let them think you're picking sides. Don't
use them as weapons.
Do not use them as weapons. Don't disrespect the other in front of them. These kids should have been so messed up. And by the way, I would have seen through that rubber makeup.
I know.
Oh yeah. Oh
Suspension of disbelief, Bob.
Yeah, but it's okay. You want and then that scene in the in the restaurant at the end.
Oh yeah,
where he goes from this table to this table and he plays drunk so well.
Good.
There's a scene where he's walking to his boss's table, and when you're drunk, you've got that very heavy footstep thing, and he's got that down so well. But that's a subtle acting choice. That's not if you play as drunk, it's obvious. But he just. The best way to play. My acting teacher told me the best way to play drunk is to
pretend you're not.
Try to play sober.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Try to play sober.
Try not
to play sober.
Know you're drunk, but try to play sober. Because we all
try to be sober.
We're just a little bit more aware of our environment and that. But he did such a great job doing that, and so much of that was ad libbed. So much of everything he did was ad-libbed.
Just running into things. That for me, that was the best indicator of drunkenness. Was he had his eyes on the place he needed to go, but like ran into that the divider, and like when he's coming through the kitchen, gets the idea to put on the thing. He like smacks into the door, and then notices the coats, and is like, I
didn't even realize, like, I hadn't seen the movie in so long, probably since I was younger. I didn't even realize that he was drunk when I was younger. And then when I was watching it as an adult, I was like,
it's a silly scene kind of.
Oh, the moment I heard bully, I'm like, there's drinking involved.
and then years ago, I was invited to do some film festival in Danville in Northern California. And that restaurant, Bridges, is in Danville. I'm like, I've got this restaurant. And they shot the exterior there. And, that was too cool.
That's
awesome.
Oh my
God.
Now I have to go.
Danville.
Yeah, I'm originally from San Francisco, so we drove by that house.
COVID.
Drove by that house growing up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For me, I was showed this from by my dad. I am a product of divorce.
Shout out.
So it was extremely poignant to me. I didn't see it right when it came out, but 2 or 3 years afterwards, my dad showed it to me. Huge fan of Robin Williams growing up. Like I mentioned, I'm from the Bay Area, so he was around where we were all the time doing events and speaking. But the two moments that truly stand out to me, anytime someone mentions Mrs. Doubtfire, the two scenes that just kind of pop into my head is the drive-by fruiting.
Yes.
Knowing that he really threw that lime at Pierce Brosnan and nailed him in the back of the head kills me every time. It's literally the one that I rewound. I probably wore our first tape out on that scene alone. And then I know this is an odd one, but his impression of a hot dog is...
that was wrong. That entire bit. And one of the DVDs has extras with all the stuff that was cut.
Oh my God.
They cut out 50% of his impressions with that scene.
They probably just line around with
and
it.
you can see when he does the hot dog, and then he's got that little grin on his face, like, I know you're not going to keep that one. But.
That was so stupid, but it was so good. And like, it's just like I mentioned before, Harvey Fierstein. I'm a huge fan of his. So the fact that he's in here just playing like this amazing brother character to him, and they get to sing a little Barbra Streisand with Matchmaker. Like it's I don't know. It's from start to finish.
With the most amazing apartment.
Yes.
Right?
Ever.
Everywhere else, I was like, that's like dream house, dream apartment. All of them, like, wow.
Even when it was messy, I was like,
actually,
it's not
I have driven by the house.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's really there in San Francisco.
It is, and if you'll remember, when he calls Sally Field several times as creepy people until he calls as Mrs. Doubtfire, and she gives the address on Steiner Street, and I'm like, I wonder if that really is on Steiner Street. And God damn it, it is.
Oh my God.
It is on Steiner Street.
Yeah. In San Francisco, there's an unspoken rule that you don't just hang out about there. There's no one really, like, you got to be respectful to people who live there. But every time everyone drives by, they go, that's the house from Mrs. Doubtfire. Did you know?
Wish they did that with Breaking Bad.
And the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Brady, until they redid it, everybody knew it was the Brady Bunch house, but you don't knock on the door and say, hi, Brady's, how are you?
Can you let me inside?
My last little tidbit here that I didn't know until recently was that the scene where he, buries his face in the cake and is for the social worker was actually improvised because the lights melted the icing. They hadn't planned for any of that whatsoever.
And so him melting.
And so Robin Williams just kind of ran with it.
Oh, look, it's a little cappuccino.
Yeah, it was supposed to just be icing on the face, but the lights from the set started melting it. And so they just kind of, rolled with it.
I wonder if Anne Haney
and just made that scene, elevates that scene
tasting
for me.
The other thing to look for is when he's over the stove and his breasts catch fire. And it's so obvious it's a stunt double because he or she is half the size of his costume.
Yep.
But it's his voice being dubbed screaming.
Yeah.
Right.
You can hear
brilliant.
like the room tone of when it was recorded.
The film is just such a warm blanket for me. Like it's such one of those things. It's like, let's watch Mrs. Doubtfire tonight. Yeah, let's do it.
It's just.
I was gonna say, this is one of those movies that I actually never saw all the way through somehow.
Oh wow!
Until getting ready for this episode. And
wow, you're welcome.
Like I've seen chunks of it, but this
you're an anomaly, my friend.
I am.
Bob Bergen, you have changed his life.
It's going to Broadway. Whenever they get Broadway back, it's going to be a Broadway musical.
Yeah.
Whoa!
One thing I really liked about it was that a lot of the setups and things, like, of course, we're kind of jaded now looking backward, and back then this was all probably like the whole Flintstones dinner kind of thing. Going into that scene, I was like, okay, here we go. This isn't going to work in this setting. That's not. I can't believe this. But it was just such a joy, and it was so funny, and it was just like, I don't even care. This is just magic and just hilarious, and it was kind of the other characters really.
Then you get too logical. You're like, okay, so he's a lousy cook. So he orders $1 billion worth of food. What does he do? What does he do the next night?
Does he do that every night? I was like, is he going to do that every night?
And how did he clean up that kitchen?
In the prosthetics, off, on.
Yeah, but you've got to take reality away. It's just a movie.
Well,
but it was. I love how
learning.
genuine the sort of divorce setup was. Like that could have been really quick in any other movie, right? But this was like it made sense, and it felt kind of realistic as far as like the challenges of their relationship, and it was interesting to see that actually like play out through the movie. So that was I really dug that part about it.
Yeah,
Kaylin.
Man, I loved Mrs. Doubtfire before when I watched it as a kid, and it had been at least 10 years since I've seen it at this point. But watching it, kind of in a new light of knowing that this was a movie that you liked, Bob, it gave me a different lens, which I appreciated even more, because not only was I watching this as an adult going like, oh, this had like kind of that Looney Tunes feel of like, there was stuff I just didn't catch because it all zipped over my head and I was like, ooh, fun movie. But also like, the way that Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire, that's like the best example of how to develop and stay in a character. Because you're literally like living in it all the way. And it's only by accident of developing that character did it come back to be useful
Little
for
newspaper
him
gag.
later.
Yeah.
That he ended up getting the show based on all of this life that happened in the background.
Yeah, no. So for me with Mrs. Doubtfire, I, being a little younger, I think I only saw commercials of it or trailers of it in the VHSs I was watching. Particularly, I think like maybe The Mask. And then like seeing like coming to theaters, Mrs. Doubtfire or something like that.
Right.
And then I was like, what does that mean? But then later on actually watching, I think the first time I ever watched it was actually on FX because I grew up somehow just watching a bunch of syndicated stuff on FX. And that was one of the first films that I had the VHS and I learned how to record the TV. And then I was like, I'm going to have this movie because I thought it was a wonderful movie. And I don't
The
think
original pirate.
Yeah. Which I was like, how is that not illegal? But I don't know. Because you recorded stuff all the time. That was like a thing. You recorded the nightly news. So but anyway, so I did that. And then so watching again for this time, like it's funny to see like in 2020 eyes looking back and watching this film and seeing the climate of the world. Like it's so like that 90s feel. I felt like I had like reinstall Windows 98 on my computer. I need to get back to that level. But no, I mean, it's wonderful. And also being a kid who had parents who divorced, like it was something that I felt like, my parents should have watched this movie because it was like what you were saying. Like there's so many of the missteps that the parents take, but also like getting to see like knowing my family's history, like who left who, why did it didn't work, arguing. And then the very end where there's a very, heartfelt moment that Sally Field is watching the TV and saying like, hearing Mrs. Doubtfire say like sometimes parents need to be away in order for them to be better parents for you. And it's like that was I think a moment when I was watching as a kid. I'm like, oh, I get it. But no, yeah, I mean everything in there is just like phenomenal. Like, but to your point of like, what does he do for the next day? It's like, well, he does learn. That's like his, they have the 90s montage with the, he do look like a lady. And he's playing, but also I was like, who does that with the broom? Also, no one does that with the broom.
I mean,
I have.
Yeah, no one
y'all
does
do the
that.
teeth play too? The teeth play?
I do behind the back.
I mean, I do the air guitar and the behind the back, but I was like, the teeth play? I don't know.
In fact, I was doing it the other day, and we watched this movie, and Bonnie goes, "You were just doing that."
And so I was like,
I probably did it because of this, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Give you the inspiration.
But yeah, and also seeing like a young Matthew Lawrence in here was like interesting. But yeah, like
Sally
Pierce
Field is
Brosnan.
just so you really need her in this movie. I mean, like as wonderful as Robin Williams is at carrying a lot of this, it would mean nothing without the emotional weight that I think Sally Fields is just phenomenal at bringing in. And I personally am guilty of not giving her enough credit in this film because she's just
well, the scene when he reveals himself in the restaurant, her multiple takes, and you can see just the wheels spinning in her character's head.
in her monologue.
Oh my gosh, she's just such a great actress.
The whole time? I was like, that's it. Like that realization of like, oh my God. I was like,
So the levels of the vocal tone of like, oh my God.
Right. So one of my all-time favorite characters in the entire movie is the horny bus driver.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he first of all has extremely interesting tastes.
Mhm.
Yes.
He likes the hairy legs.
Healthy. Yeah. The way that God made you.
He likes them a little Zoftic, and he doesn't mind latex. He just he was a lonely man. It was a sweet character, and he
Man of
just
simple
forward to
pleasures.
picking her up.
I feel like, in all honesty, he kind of like, a little bit of like a role model for men because it's kind of like you love people for who they are. And like, first thing's like, I hope you have something warm to come home to, just like very nice and caring. And like, doesn't go any further than that, just says a simple thing.
Just tips right up to the line of like, this is borderline creepy guy.
No, because you know what it is? It's a juxtaposition to the bus driver in Hocus Pocus, who is a creepy guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And does, the witches say, we seek children. And he was like, I could may take me a couple times, but so it's a nicer way of going about that character.
Yeah.
Because there is
For
some
sure.
sort of heart to it. And to every character in this.
He's very genuine. Like he's not trying to be gross.
I want to
Right.
I do want to bring up a point that Ollie had while we were having a tech flub, like the subversion of Pierce Brosnan's character actually kind of being a good dude.
Oh, he's
like,
a great dude.
When
like
he comes
you're
to the
like you
bar, I
expect
was
him to
like,
be
here we
evil.
go. Here's the dirt. This is the turning point. This is where he gets his ammo, right? But no.
And so for
But
me,
his whole point is that he can't believe that the father would, he's
super
a great
nice
family.
guy.
Yeah.
Looks like he's going to take care of them just fine. And
but by the time I watched Miss Doubtfire, he had already been James Bond. So I was like, what's he doing in San Francisco being like this loser?
I know him as a womanizer. I don't like what I'm seeing.
Then I was like, but then now you think back and I was like, Pierce Brosnan is like this hot, sexy dude with an accent who's like, it's just Rob Williams, who's kind of like a little bit of the everyman, who's like can't cook, can't clean, all that stuff. He has to work his way to become a better person in order to be with his kids. It's like pure competition, and it's like this wonderful like
he's just like a client that just wanted a room designed and then like fell in love with his designer and then like had 3 wonderful children and happily ever after. Like that story is also like just as sweet and okay.
Also, with the exception of Robin Williams, everybody had a lot of money.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Isn't that reflective of San Francisco today?
It's just,
I mean, that incredible country club, and where you just go up and you just you sign your membership number and then you walk away.
Uh-huh.
Or a convenient prosthetic artist as a brother.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about the
Right.
cost
he's got
of
all these like
prosthetics.
movie faces everywhere, and just like happens to have all the plaster and materials.
Oh, yeah.
And
This one's
Open
just
up my
general or
drawer. Here's the teeth. They'll fit.
Yeah.
you-
I do admit though that montage of different faces is brilliant. It's like,
Yeah.
let's give Robin Williams just a chance to just flex for a little bit.
Just check out the extras on the DVD and all those scenes. They
I
cut.
have it. I'm definitely gonna do that. I haven't checked those out yet.
There's something on. I think YouTube has a compilation of like 20 minutes that was cut from the film that was produced with soundtrack and everything.
Nice.
They
Wow.
just cut for time. But I always thought that somebody should have a network or a YouTube channel called The Cutting Room Floor, where they just find all the clips that were cut and just show them. And oftentimes, because we're such fans of the product, we welcome the new stuff because it's new stuff.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
you get a deep
Hashtag
dive
Snyder
in
Cut.
that world a little bit more.
It's
Yeah,
kind of like
exactly.
what Werner Herzog said. It's like you're treasure hunting. You're looking for these like little
Exactly.
gems that you're like, these were lost in time, and now someone reclaimed them. And YouTube is the museum. Like
Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. I mean, going back to cartoons, they used to, back in World War II, they used to wash the cells and reuse them.
yeah,
So
Wild.
they don't exist anymore. But then they never thought they were considered art or they would be
Yeah.
valuable. So they would throw them on the floor and play slip and slide.
Oh my gosh!
history.
I know.
History.
Ah!
It's funny, listening about your interviews of like how you went to go meet Mel Blanc and, crashed like his recording session, like watching Mrs. Doubtfire, then knowing about that story, like when it's like, I would love to work in this place where like out of nowhere, the head of the studio is just hanging out and you could just talk to him. He's not in a video village or surrounded by a bunch of clients and has, is not willing to talk to you. And then also when you're cleaning up the place and you do your own riff of a show, he's just the only person there to watch. And I was like, this is a lovely imagination of what Hollywood is. Cause I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know how.
It's a bit of a fantasy of how bureaucracy actually does work. But on the other hand, you got to give the guy that played the boss a little bit of credit because he really did care about the station and the quality of the programming.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it would take this employee whose job was to schlep stuff, films and things back and forth from the loading dock to come up with the idea. But on the other hand, the fact that he was so open to this pitch, that, by the way, that's pretty close to Hollywood. Pitch meetings over dinner and lots of cocktails happen all the time.
Mhm.
But it's PBS. That was supposed to be
Yeah.
basically their PBS station. And then the Mrs. Doubtfire show, in the end, you find out is syndicated and it's becoming a big thing. So it's really just a very, very sweet ending to that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think that was also pretty funny to see. I was like, also in this world of Hollywood, you like the ratings are so up like after the first day of recording. I was like, did they not edit this?
Well, it's also like it's the whole thing of like cut like right then is where the studio head is like we're doing great, money's great. It's very picturesque. Like
It's
I
not a
did
phone
like
call.
the subtle,
Yeah.
it was a small
it's not the
detail,
next
but
day.
They were talking about how boring the original show was, but they didn't fire him. They made him the mailman of this new show.
It's like what Bob was saying. Like,
No
you don't
villains.
take a job away from him, which was like I think
Yeah.
really
Also,
nice.
by the way, he had no shame. He didn't mind doing it either.
Yeah.
And he was
He
happy.
still
about
has a
it.
job.
I also
happier.
love
Let's
that.
be honest. When you're working in children's programming in San Francisco, if you lose a job, you're completely unemployed.
Yep.
So we
Right,
learned
that's
that
right.
at the beginning
As
of the
we've
film.
learned.
Yep.
Yeah.
That guy's lucky.
I
You can
think
get-
one
Right.
one choice for that guy who became the mailman is that he would always say things incorrectly. Like if with everything he did, he would say it wrong or weird or elongated. And then when he came back as the mailman, he had like one line, but he still like did the pronunciation incorrectly. And I was like, oh, huh. It was just
character.
lots of little
Character
moments to
change.
appreciate.
There you go.
When you come up with a character, I mean, like Mrs. Doubtfire, the character itself, if I remember correctly, came from an Andy Kaufman show he did, where Robin Williams played Andy Kaufman's grandmother,
Wow.
and that
Oh.
character,
Right.
yeah, it was a show at, I believe at Carnegie Hall. It's on the IMDb trivia, I believe. It was an Andy Kaufman show, and he played his grandma, and that character just kind of sat dormant for 20 years, and then Mrs. Doubtfire came along, and there you go.
And you know, there's the scene where Pierce Brosnan says, "What part of England are you from? Your
Muddled.
accent sounds kind of muddy." Well, so is your tan. I always thought he was being Scottish.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
what it sounds like.
Yeah.
To me, to my ears, it sounds more Scottish than British. But he kept playing, you know, oh yeah, my husband was killed by a Guinness truck, and
drink.
everything was. It was the drink that literally killed him.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I always thought it was Scottish too. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, also before we wrap things up, we do also make sure we go around the digital screens, the gallery view. Bob, if you can have your favorite two characters of Mrs. Doubtfire, who would they be?
Including Ms. Doubtfire herself.
Yeah, we can do two.
Oh.
Two characters.
Oh, favorite two characters would probably be. Oh, only two?
Only two. See, that's what makes it hard, baby.
That's his tough part.
It does. All right, I'm going to go obscure.
Yeah.
It's not the obvious. I said one earlier, the bus driver.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I like.
Yep.
Nice.
And I love the maitre d' at the restaurant, who
Right away.
who kisses everybody's ass when they come to the host
yeah.
stand, but he's an asshole to his employees.
Yeah.
Mm.
Facts.
Yeah.
Reality.
Very real. Yeah, I was gonna say. Unfortunately, that part is very real. It's not a fantasy.
I know.
Who's next?
Corey, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'll exclude Mrs. Doubtfire just because titular character and all, and Robin Williams has a soft spot in my heart.
Secondly, two characters.
Yeah, I would say the brother Harvey Firestein. I think everything that Harvey Firestein does is complete gold. From movie to stage, I think he's just a wonderful
Yeah.
actor. And then as a second character, because I mentioned it before, I got to shout out Sally Fields in this. I think that without her balance, you don't have a film.
Mm. Heavy agree.
Tom?
Caitlin? Oh, okay. Me.
Yeah, Tom.
For me, Harvey Firestein. And then the daughter.
Which one?
Lydia.
The older daughter. In a weird way, like I felt like my childhood was a little telegraphed because I was around that age of like I was like around the Matilda age of like I don't know what's happening. But then my parents were splitting apart, and then my older sister was just like I hate everything, and it was just like really like she's kind of the one that kind of like just reminds the audience of why Danny's doing this. Or Daniel's doing this, and like that moment when she comes out when they have that first fight, it's like you wouldn't punish us, and then they have to clean and then do the homework, and then after the dinner's made, she comes out, and then Daniel, aka Miss Doubtfire, is like get inside before you get a cold. It's this moment of like turn point of like she can, hopefully develop as a child, to a young woman, and Daniel is seeing this like happen before his eyes, and it's like. There's something about that, and also like she was also I feel like she was in like a lot of these 90s films for me, like in Independence Day, and I was just like she was going to be everywhere for some reason, but then I was like so she has like this really big like I really like this character, like it's like a love hate, and then you later on just like learn to kind of just like be sympathetic for the children. as an adult, I guess.
Yeah. Caitlin?
For me, I'm on the same train with Lydia, the older daughter, just because that is she is kind of like the vessel for you to understand the full complexity of like how you deal with this as like a preteen going through this experience of like, I want to support both of you, and there's complicated emotions, and sometimes it made me angry about it, but I'm still supportive, but I still love you, but so like all of that kind of complication is very accurately portrayed through her. And then I think my favorite of all is Daniel, not Mrs. Doubtfire, Daniel, who is like especially the speech in the courtroom where pleading insanity and saying, ever since I saw my kids, I'm crazy for them. So that gives you like you already know this is a very fantastical thing, but that actually grounded the decision to become Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Of like, you know what? Yeah, I do all these voices. I play all these characters. This was the only thing I could think of to like get close to my kids. And yeah, that's an insane thing to do because I'm crazy for them. Like it just made it make sense. So, and like seeing his development outside of that of like, you know, Chinese food boxes everywhere and a dingy apartment. And then like growing through being Mrs. Doubtfire changed him as a person to make him a better person. Who's like a solid figure on his own without his wife.
Yeah.
Like that was a really cool.
It's like he had to grow up in the situation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he kept the essence of that childishness in him that like turned into this opportunity for him.
Yeah.
So
and then by the way, everybody grew because Miranda allowed him to then see the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he'd proven himself, he'd grown, she grew. Because she realized she was being a bitch. And she was taking all of her frustrations out on him, and it was affecting the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think probably because he's the most kind of downtrodden in this kind of scenario and getting him to kind of find his path and like take care of himself and his life and kind of the people around him by proxy. That was really cool. I liked that specific through line.
Right.
Yeah.
Ollie?
Mine starts with Harvey Feinstein because he's a joy to watch and everything, just like you said. I wanted more of him in this movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some cut stuff. There probably is because he said it was most of those dress room scenes, right, that were cut. So maybe there's more of him to watch.
Improv.
But aside from that, it was just Daniel. Yeah. Robin Williams.
Maybe a sequel only about the brother and how to make different plastered and prosthetic faces.
He makes that a business where
oh my gosh.
It's just about his business side. It's all about the business.
Yeah.
He has to impersonate Robin Williams in this one.
Yeah.
Oh.
My favorite are the parents, Daniel and Miranda. Like I just I know that they both have their instances where you're like, that wasn't cool. But the way that they grow as parents from the beginning to the end, and I especially love the scene where she comes to visit him and she says, Miranda says, you know, I don't want to do this anymore of like who did what to who and who said this and blah, blah, blah. I just want to move forward. And I love that she realizes, and I love that Daniel grows up. Like he is kind of immature at the beginning, and then he kind of learns what life needs, what you need. You can still be silly and fun, but there's also a quote serious side that, you know, you still got to do the dishes. You still got to do the laundry.
You got to chuck the remote into the fish tank.
Yeah.
Right.
There you
go. I like the parents and how they grow throughout the movie and just become cool people. People.
Copacetic.
Bob, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such an honor.
This is fun.
Is there anything that you would like our audience to check out, like social media, any projects that are currently out that you would like people to go see?
Maybe another match
that I
game
can talk
episode?
about?
That you can talk about.
Aren't NDA clad.
Oh, yeah, I know everything's NDA. I will tell you guys, I got some stuff that I'm doing right now that the fans are going to go, no way!
Ah!
So I got some good shit. Social media, Instagram, bergen.bob, Twitter, at Bob Bergen. You know what the nice thing about today is that everybody's reachable. You can always, and the voiceover communities a really nice one. So it's very rare that someone's going to go, I'm not going to talk to them. So yeah, reach out.
I'm putting Looney Tunes cartoons, HBO Max. I can't talk about that. I have a game that just came out, but I don't remember what it is.
Oh no!
Right?
In stores now.
I just did another Robot Chicken. I don't know when it comes out. So I'm busy.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Right on.
But we're always in fear of saying what we shouldn't.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very
So
You know what I
so
mean?
follow along. So when he can talk about it, he will, and you'll hear
Yeah.
it. You'll be there
And
first.
you'll know about it because it's some pretty. I mean, I'm working on this one project that they kind of teased about 3 weeks ago. And so I said to my executive producer, so can we talk about this? They're like, no, not at all. Not at all. I was okay. All right. You're not wrong.
We'll bring you on when you can
Fine.
talk about it.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
you go. There you go.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you again.
Awesome. That was a lot of fun.
I can't. It's so good. So
It's
cool.
so good.
All right.
So
Good.
fun.
It was so fun. It was so
LA
fun.
gets smaller and smaller. We know more and more people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, everybody at home, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I
Or
know that I
watching.
did. So
Yeah, you should watch it.
exactly.
You should see all
Watching
the
it on
faces on
YouTube.
Bob Bergen's wall.
Yes.
Oh my
that was
gosh,
One
really
day,
yeah.
your face will be there.
I was kind of thinking Game of Thrones for Corey doesn't have no
For those
faces
of you who
there.
aren't watching, you'll have no idea what that sound was.
Don't
Oh.
talk about it. Don't talk about it.
Okay, all
There's
right.
so many strippers.
So much
yeah,
blood.
I was getting some Game of Thrones vibes at first, and then when he explained, I was like, oh.
Now you just spoiled it.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody do check out we do video versions of all these episodes. So if you would like to know the shenanigans that goes on camera, please do check it out. It's nerdon.tv/YouTube. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you are new to Nerdon, welcome. Bienvenue.
Hi.
Check out our website, nerdon.tv. It has all of the information of all of the links of all of the things that we create and
All
do.
the things.
All of the things. It recently went through a facelift to make everything a little bit more easy to find.
More easier.
More easier. Do stop by, rate and review us wherever you listen. It does help us not only to grow in terms of getting that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, that's okay too. It just feels nice to get those reviews and to check them out. And we share them with each other. We share them on
It's like-
social media and we shout out people.
Yeah. If you like
It's
us,
like if-
comment and rate. If you hate us, comment and rate. But also hit the like button and then give us
Also,
5 stars for no
when we
reason.
get those reviews,
I was
it's
gonna say,
like,
if you hate us, maybe don't rate us.
it's like
Do it anyway.
if you were to like take a nap on the couch and someone walked up and was
and
like,
fart in your face.
I baked you a whole tray of warm cookies. Here's a glass of milk. Please enjoy this delicious treat. And we're just like, thank you.
That's what a positive
That's what
review
getting
is like.
getting a review feels like. Just a
Before-
review, getting feedback.
Before the very
it's just
end,
delightful.
I want to remind everybody that we have our 3rd anniversary coming up pretty
Yes,
soon
we
here.
Ooh.
Next month, we're going to be celebrating a trilogy like we always do. First year, we did Lord of the Rings. Second year, we did the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. And this year, we're going to be doing Back to the Future. So we have a lot of cool stuff planned this month, including a watch party. So if you want to learn more about that, hit us up on the socials, hit us up on Discord. It's going to be a fun time. Capeless is getting in on the celebration, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, 3rd anniversary. Kicking off the 4th year of Nerd On content for you.
Oi.
Baby.
It's pretty exciting. Yeah, just pay attention to all of our social media. We'll have information about what kind of events that we're doing
We'll have
online.
infographics even.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Graphics. But yeah, that has been the episode. We appreciate you all for listening. Hope life is well. Hope you're staying safe and healthy and all that jazz.
Take care of each other. Stay strong.
Ditto.
Stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Take
Actually,
care of yourself.
get electrolytes too, because that's also a thing.
Yeah.
I love Corey's face, but we're going to end here. Thank you so much for listening. You know the drill. As always, nerd on.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.